to the One Up Podcast. I am your host, DJ Doey Fresh. I'm not your usual host. Gotta say, might be one of the best hosts. All right. I got a very, very special guest with us today with two of our more usual guests. I'll tell you more about them later.
See, that butchered guest now.
Our very, very special guest, Cristina, one half of Espooky Tales, if I'm not correct. Clap for her. Applause. Insert the applause.
I am clapping for myself.
Yeah. I appreciate you clapping for yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't clap for yourself, who's gonna clap for you? You know,
Facts.
Right.
you gotta be your biggest supporter.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
And she's coming on. Go ahead.
And Cristina, you've got more than just a Spooky Tales, right? Like how many podcasts are you actually a part of now? I feel like you pick up podcasts every week, like how we used to collect.
No.
3.
Yeah, 3. I guess it could actually. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
Very nice. Very
Spooky Tales, La Historia.
Yes, Historias Unknown is the Latin American obscure history podcast, and then my other one is like my for funsies one. That's a telenovela rewatch podcast called Novelas con Cafecito, which I host. The history one and the novelas one I host with my twin.
Gotcha. And she's guested on a Spooky Tales before. She's good.
Mm-hmm.
You're all good at what
she's
you do.
the official what's called official unofficial guest co-host, I think is what we've called her, something like that.
Nice.
So you got a twin?
Yes, yeah.
That's very cool. Fraternal or identical?
Identical, yeah.
Awesome. You know, I've always wondered about identical twins. I've known identical twins, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll go into work for him," and then I'm like, "No, you don't." And he's
no,
like, "Yeah,
I wouldn't. Because my twin's job is the worst. It's hard. I don't know how she does it. I would have already quit a long time ago. She's a social worker.
Oh, that's
wow.
a tough
Okay.
job.
She's an
not
amazing
easy.
person, though. So,
But you know what?
Yeah.
It's a needed job.
It is 100% necessary, and someone has to do it. And I'm glad it's her because she's great.
That's
I
awesome.
wouldn't
Shout
do
out to
it.
her. Yeah. I have Mateo, the Texan one without a gun.
Nailed it.
See, it's not hard. This is not hard. And then I got my boy Pucho, the master thumbnail, but he doesn't do thumbnails.
Yeah.
He's the master editor, but sometimes
The
no.
bald one. I'll take
All right.
the bald one.
All right. So let's talk about Spooky Tales. How did we get into Spooky Tales? When did this start?
Yeah, when was it? November 2020-ish, I think, is when we started. Yeah, I've always been obsessed with like everything spooky. It was like a family thing to go watch horror movies together. And I was already listening to a lot of like, paranormal or spooky podcasts, and I was like, man, how come like there's like none talking about legends in Latin America? And then I found 2, and I caught up on those, and I was like, well, if I'm looking for this, there's probably more people looking for it. I should just make it. I already had the telenovela rewatch podcast with my twin, and I wanted her to host with me originally, but she was too busy because she has a busy job. So then I was like, I was on Twitter, and I was like, who wants to co-host this with me? Because I don't want to do it by myself. And MJ was like, oh, I'll do it. And I know MJ from high school, so yeah,
That's
is
fire.
how it became a thing.
So I'm very I like horror, and I like to look for horror topics and recent subjects or lore. For me, I really like the Spanish spin, and like I love it, everything, because you hear stuff about, you like hear all like the usual shit, and
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with Hispanic culture's lore. I just think it's awesome.
Yeah, y'all have covered some really interesting like stories and creatures. Y'all did an episode where you were talking about it was the psychic ghost hunter dude that he used to have a show, and
Oh,
and
yes.
y'all were going through like the transcript of the show and just kind of reacting to it. I thought that one was clever. I thought that was awesome.
Yes, that's it's the Mano Peluda episode.
Yes.
So Mano Peluda was like I mean it's still going on, but the most like famous time it was the host was Juan Ramon Sáenz, and they would go to people would call in. It was kind of like coast to coast, but for like Mexico, and people would call in from everywhere, not just Mexico, but it it was hosted, I guess. I don't know how people refer to that in radio terms, but that's where it was like recorded. I don't know what the term is, but yeah, in Mexico.
How much of that show is real? Like how much of that was just straight up staged, and how much of that show was real?
So that specific episode, I later, because people call in and tell their stories, and you personally don't know are they making it up or not. But I later found out that guy's cousin got on TikTok and he's like, "Y'all, this story is fake. I helped him make all the sound effects, but he is a terrible guy, and he is into evil brujeria. He's an evil brujo." And so like that part is true. He is bad, but that phone call itself was not real. Yeah.
Wow.
Going back a little bit, how did you even get into podcasting to begin with?
I was like listening to podcasts for a few years, and a lot of podcasts, and I was like, I want to start one, but and I mean, because at the time I didn't know. Obviously, they have always existed, but I didn't know any like Latino podcasts at all. I didn't know where they were at. I didn't know how to find them, and I was like, I want to, because rewatch podcasts, I that's what I was listening to a lot of, rewatch podcasts. And I was like, well, I want to do one about novelas. And it took a while to convince my twin to do it, because she was like, no, I hate our voices. She was speaking for both of us. And I was like, well, I don't give a shit. Like, just do it with me. And I don't want to do it by myself. And I looked up how to do it. And finally she agreed. But yeah, I just thought about it one day, and I was like, I want to start one. So yeah, that's how.
That's like the struggle, right? Like I feel when we first started recording and like I was editing and Pucha was editing, the worst part was hearing myself talk. I absolutely hate hearing myself talk. I hate looking at my stupid face because we do the video format too.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
That has never bothered me. When people like are like, man, I hate the sound of my own voice, I'm like, I'm not gonna say I love the sound of my own voice, but I don't mind it. I've never minded seeing like editing. That's never bothered me. But people will tweet about it so much, like, oh, I hate how I sound. I'm like, I don't know. I don't see it. Carmen does though. I don't think she could edit because she does hate the sound of both of our voices, not just her own.
So if she was editing, it would just be a podcast of silence. You'd have your little intro. And
she would just not do it. Yeah.
Subtitles, just subtitles.
For me, it's just like when I hear and it's not so bad anymore, and I think the mic helps. But like, it feels like when I hear my recorded voice, it doesn't sound the way that my voice sounds when I talk. Like I feel like I sound the way in my own head, that. And then when I hear it, I'm like, I sound like that. That's terrible. And so yeah, then you never know. Is it the microphone? Is it just like the way sound vibrates in your own head? Like I don't know. And you know, as time has gone on, I've certainly gotten used to the sound of my voice, like recorded. I don't cringe when I hear it anymore. But at first, I was like, oh man, this feels so weird. But I don't know.
Same. I would also get nervous when I'd be really nervous up here and shit like that. But yeah, I get it. Whenever we make clips and it's a clip of me and I hear myself talking for too long, I'm like, yo, can we just take that off? Can you like mute yourself? Like I'm kind of sick of it.
Oh, no, you're my favorite part when I'm making clips. You have a laugh that is just infectious. So when I can get like a good clip that has like just a doughy laugh in there somewhere, I'm like that short's gonna hit somewhere. Someone's gonna enjoy that. That laugh just can't help it. My
teachers hated me in school so much because of that. Like, because I could get the group that I was in laughing. One of my teachers wrote in my thing that I'm a toxic student. That I poisoned the well.
Wow.
The bad apple.
Yeah, that was when me and the other host Tony was in a class together. They separated us.
Yeah, I could back Doy up on this one. We were in the 8th grade language arts together, and Yeah, we got in trouble a lot for laughing and disrupting the class. So
Yeah,
this is true.
it was a good time. I enjoyed
I
it.
would like to see a study of the trajectory of like the kids who talk too much in class and who has a podcast and how
Right?
they intersect. Because I mean, like I'm in my twin are in there too. Like,
It's just a circle. It's just a big circle Venn diagram.
Were you and your twin ever in the same class together?
yeah, first through third grade we were in the same class, and then no, okay, yeah, third grade they put her in a different class, and I begged and begged for her to be in the same class with me. And then eventually they did move her to my class because she was making new friends without me.
Damn.
So I was like, no, she doesn't want to hang out with me anymore. And so I begged and cried until they put her in my class. And they did. And then fourth grade, we switched schools and finally we were in different classes. And then in high school, once in a while, we had a class or two together, but not as often as like elementary school.
Gotcha. I feel like twins are either like super close and inseparable, or they just kind of do their own thing and they're just have their own
You know,
separate
I never
friend groups. And
I knew other twins that just like hated each other, and I was like, I don't get it. Like me and my twin, whenever we went, all of our appointments together, like, you know, when you take the yearly like well child check, they were always together, and the doctor would be like, who's your best friend? And he's like, you can't point at each other, and we'd be like, what do you mean? This is my best friend. I don't know what you want from us.
Oh, that's nice. Sibling love is it's a beautiful thing to have a sibling that you can
Yeah.
be really close to. It's an awesome feeling.
Yeah, I have two brothers, and we've gone roller coasters in terms of like loving each other, hating each other, loving each other. Now we're all cool, but like that teenage era, it was there
That
was
was
a lot
us
of
with
there
our
was a lot-
brother.
Yeah, I'm the youngest. I had two older brothers. There's a lot of puberty, a lot of testosterone in the house. It was wild. All right? It wasn't cute at all.
yeah,
The
we had a very mischievous upbringing because like my family, you know, I've got 2 sisters and a brother, but we lived on like what we called the compound because like my family was truck drivers. So we had this big chunk of land. We had all our trucks parked there. My cousins, 2 batches of my cousins lived across the way. Other cousins
That
came
sounds
like
so
all
fun,
the time.
though.
So there were like 12 of us just running around, just causing
Oh my
mischief.
gosh. Yeah.
It was chaos. It was just pure chaos. Like we spent too much time outside. We'd hate each other in the morning, love each other by the afternoon, or reverse that. It was a
Yeah.
lot.
I can't even imagine how bad you guys smelled when you guys came in from outside. 12. Like I hate when
Oh,
people
no,
come into the
you're
house
right.
from just
Yeah.
being in the yard for like 4 minutes. I'm like, oh, you smell like outside. And 12 kids with pasty ass sweat. I couldn't. I would. I got 2 kids. I'm gonna have to deal with it soon.
It must have been miserable, dude, because we were just
Yeah.
like a pack of kids just roaming around outside.
That's hilarious. I was thinking about the first time I was like, it was like maybe 14, 15. It was the first time my mom couldn't stop us from fighting. Me and my brother, and that was my mom had to take a step back. She's like, whoa, these fists are getting thrown. And then we were like wrestling and we fell into the coffee table. And the coffee table just split in half. And yeah, it was bad. It's bad. I love siblings. Yeah, I love sibling love is like no type of love, all right? Some of the best fights, some of the worst.
This is why you weren't
Yeah.
allowed to watch Nightmare Before Christmas, dude. There was too much devil in you.
Too
You
much-
were the Nightmare Before Christmas. That's why.
No Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, no
Oh my
Double
God.
Dragon, no, because
Were
my
you guys
mom saw
evangelical?
Jehovah Witness.
Okay.
Even worse.
Okay.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, it was even worse. Yeah. So it was pretty bad when I was a kid.
So, Christina, can you talk about the Cultivate Network a little bit?
Oh yeah. So it's a group of indie podcasts. I think, when did they start it? I don't remember. They asked me to be on it at some point, and I did join them. But yeah, we just help each other out with like guest spots. There's the Reddit on Wiki podcast, which is a lot of fun. I love guesting on that podcast. We just they read Reddit stories, we react to them. Yield
Ah.
Crime is like old crime, like from like the 1800s. So a lot of interesting cases. Weird Distractions. is also a true crime. It's a lot of true crime somehow. And then just like randomly, yeah. But that's another true crime paranormal podcast hosted by Alex. And it's only her, but it's done really well. I just don't listen to a lot of solo hosted podcasts. But if I do, it is one of them that I listen to. The other one I haven't really checked it out, but it's Dom and they talk about true crime, and they're British. So if you like British accents, some people do. That is going to be a good one to listen to. He hosted it solo for a while, and then now he has a co-host, and then Espooky Tales is on there, and then my other two are on there as well, Historias Unknown and Novelas con Cafecito.
Let's go.
Awesome. That's a
very
solid
cool.
lineup for sure.
Yeah, it's like podcast for almost every mood.
It must be so hard to do a just solo podcast. I don't know how to do that. Honestly, I don't know how you do your show, because y'all are so well researched with all your topics and everything that you're discussing. I don't know if you have like just a big stack of notes in front of y'all, if y'all just cram everything in and then spew on the episode.
No. We both have notes that we pick a story. We have a big document of like a bunch of places and legends that we want to talk about. We're like, all right, which one should we do this week? Bam, let's do this one. And then over the week, we like look it up, write our notes. And then the way I structure it is like a listener story. I'll paste it in there from, all of the ones we get. And then one of us will go first, but we always have notes in front of us. Yeah, I think you should be able to tell we're reading, because we're like reading off the notes, especially MJ, because she reads fast. So you can always tell when she's telling her own story or when she's reading, which is fine, because like I'm not going to memorize all that. That's a lot to memorize.
Yeah.
Sometimes I know a story already, and so I don't need the notes as much, but that's how we usually do it. We'll have the thing in front of us, and there's sometimes, it's tangents, but yeah, we read the story, because I could not just memorize all that.
Yeah, I enjoy how you guys transition from like kind of retelling the story, kind of, and you could tell like there's like you put it on like this voice of like telling a tale, and then it's like both you guys are sort of reacting to different parts of these stories. It's fun.
I like that the go-to reaction a lot of times just like, and that's where I would leave. That's where I would be done with this whole situation.
Yeah, it's either that or like, ew, what? No.
Yeah, your podcast does make me talk out loud in my car a lot, because I like the way that y'all pronounce a lot of like words from languages that are kind of like they're not like Spanish or anything like that. It's like like indigenous languages and things like that in some of your stories. And y'all are pronouncing them and trying to like work through how to pronounce them, and I'm also speaking to myself in my car.
Yeah,
I
love it.
Have a favorite one that you told was about the haunted jail cell, and whoever went into the jail cell, they died, and then it ended up being like a huge scorpion or something like that would go in there and kill. Yo, that was one of my. I've watched that one several times. And then there was another one about, and this one was so wacky. It was like a house inside of a mall. There's
that's in El Salvador. Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And apparently
they built
this
a mall around this house. Yeah,
I need to check that one out. That sounds wild.
The content on Instagram and TikTok is like the way it's cut. It's perfect. If you ask me, like their formula that you have on there, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I've listened to maybe 8 or 9 episodes. I do find it cool how I could like listen to the whole like 20-30 minute podcast, and then if I were to go to Instagram and listen, you kind of like
it's like a
somehow
1 minute
fit
version.
the whole story into this one little like minute clip. It's impressive.
It's very impressive.
Yes. There will be comments like, you left this out, and I'm like, okay, I only got a minute here. Like, come on. Yes, I left it out.
What I do find disturbing is how many of these stories involve like horny men chasing random women into the woods. Yeah. It's like whether, all right, ignoring the fact, because we're gonna get into whether like this stuff is real or not, but like who in their right mind would follow like just a voice. There's a sexy voice in the woods. A man's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna chase that down in the dark."
That's fucking hot.
Yeah.
I just assume everyone's drunk in these stories where they're chasing the sexy voice. I just assume they're really,
They have
really
to be.
shit-faced.
Yeah.
Yo, the one really hilarious thing, and you pointed it out, was that people will comment and be like, this is fake, right?
Oh my God. I'm like, I said, according to legend, like, please, you not know what that means all the time.
So I find that funny when I look in the comment section and I'm like, dude, all of
Always,
this
yeah.
this is not real, right?
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know.
It's like the comments we get that are like, that's just your opinion, right? And we're like, we're a goddamn opinion show. Of
It's
course
an
it's just our
opinion
opinions.
Do tell.
We have this Nas episode. We did a Nas review, and we're gonna do Nas reviews forever. As long as he comes out with like albums, because they're our best performing episodes, and they'll get like 120 comments. Everybody's just shitting on us. It's just these people come together. It's this fan. I don't know. He has like this fan group, and they just take a huge shit on us.
They hate watch us. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
We get
That's
so many
funny.
comments, and it's like it's all underhanded compliments. It's like, oh yeah, you guys are awesome for doing this thing, but you guys don't know shit about what you're talking about. It's like, what? And it's like every single comment. It's hilarious.
It's good. It's a good time.
I have to
but
go
we do
back
have-
and listen to those. I used to listen to Nas a lot. It's been a while though.
Yeah, his last album's pretty good. But we do have some topics for today. We have a few related to the supernatural and the spooky stuff, like spooky horror stuff. So we have our first one: skeptics versus believers, and people who are skeptical to. I like to get into superstitions because as a Hispanic, my grandma's very.
We're a little stitious, yeah.
Yeah, could be a little stitious.
Right. Like, all right, I don't believe in anything. All right. I'm not like, but if there was like, there was like this doll that was like, if you take a picture of this doll, you're going to die. It's like, I don't believe in that at all, but I ain't taking a picture of it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to take that
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it, when it's pitch black in the room, I know there's no ghosts, but I still look back and I move a little quicker. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So yeah, we're gonna run through, I guess, a few topics in these, if whether you're skeptical or believable.
Skeptical.
That didn't
That is a word, yes.
I love it.
Sorry.
Skeptical or believable.
I think
yeah.
I know that I've asked you before, Christina, but where do you fall on the skeptic believer scale? Where would you place yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely lean towards believer. I personally have never like seen anything myself, but my whole family has, and I'm not gonna be like, no, you're just crazy. No, you're lying. I'm gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, you saw something. Was it this or was it something else? I don't know. I can't say. I wasn't there, but I'm gonna believe their stories. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely lean towards believer. There are some things I'm like, no, that's not true. But there are some things like, yeah, I wouldn't say for a fact like, no, ghosts are not real. But I also have never seen one. So
Gotcha. And I think MJ's the same, right? She might even skew a little bit more believer than you do, right?
oh my gosh, she has some weird ass experiences. So she has
I-
to lean. She's a believer. Yeah.
I thought I remembered her telling some stories from like her childhood and some weird experiences, but I couldn't.
Even not childhood, like literally like a week ago. Like she has so many
What?
stories. Like, yeah, she sees shadow people. There's a weird ass bathroom in her house that like everyone's creeped out, and just weird story sounds when like nobody's there, footsteps. Yeah, it's wild.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Up here in New York, I gotta be completely honest. There are, especially when I was a child and we lived in the basement. It's where I live right now. Is where I grew up. something about getting locked in one of those rooms and then them holding the door shut while you try to pull open the like
Is
shut
that a
the
universal childhood experience? And
Yeah, 100%.
okay, yeah, we've all been there then.
My family loved scaring the shit out of each other. We had this
Yeah.
long hallway, and
Yeah.
that's where all the bedrooms were, and the bathrooms at the very end. And people loved to hide in any of those little the doorways there, and just jump out at you. It was my dad's favorite damn game. We were a family of like spooky stuff. We were a family of just pranking each other. My dad
Let me tell you,
my dad would go outside and he'd bang on the window
Yes.
in the kitchen and scare the
Okay.
shit out of my mom when she was washing dishes.
we went. I don't know if you guys had Mervin's where you were at, but we were at Mervin's. Now they're not a thing anymore, but I grew up in Oakland, and in Alameda there was like a little shopping complex, and we would go there all the time. And but with my mom, my dad was never with us. And one day he got out of work early, but he didn't like tell us. And so we were in Mervin's, and we had a van which he had a key to. And so he went in the back of the van and hid there. And then when we walked in, he jumped out and was like, boo. And my brother almost had like a fucking panic attack. He was like hyperventilating because we screamed, but obviously there's like a man in the van. And then we finally noticed that it was our dad.
Oh
But my poor
God.
brother, like, I thought he was gonna die at the time because I was like, I've never seen him cry this much. Like, what is happening?
Yo, that's hilarious. He was shook, petrified.
You ever been
My mom
so
was so
scared that you just
bad.
have to sit down? My dad got me real good one time, and we were outside. I just had to sit on the ground for a little bit. I was like, just take it a timeout. It's a quick timeout.
Yes, yeah.
My brother was a huge prankster, so yeah, this is worst. He would constantly scare me, all sorts of prank setups. It was I was his. It's like he found amusement through pranking, of course, because he's a
Oh
fucking
yeah,
asshole.
yeah.
But he laughed at his own jokes. He's one of those guys where he
Yep.
tell a joke, like
Sounds like
it's
me.
for
Oh my
us.
god.
It's for us. It's not for you to laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Oh my
that
god.
yeah,
Joey,
I got pranked a lot.
Joey, you lean a little bit more believer, right?
Yes. Yeah, but I still try to be brave, and I'll be like, no fucking ghosts in this room. I walk in there, real tough, and then like,
And
I don't know.
And I know that
You guys-
I know Tony leans believer because he's scared of Ouija boards, which is
Oh,
his
yeah.
whole thing.
He definitely
Yeah.
skews believer. Throughout my life, I've gone from skewing believer to more skeptical. Like there was this closet in my house. I've told you guys this where I was horrified of this closet. Like according to legend, okay, my brother and my cousin got locked in this closet, and one of my brothers was holding the closet closed and they started chanting some like Bloody Mary shit. And my brother claims that blood started dripping down the walls, and I swear to God, there was like these red stains in that closet, and it just horrified me. It was a
Oh
closet
my
I never. It
God.
was in my bedroom.
Yeah.
I never. If that closet was open, I just couldn't sleep that night. I would stare at it the entire night, and I swear I would see things in there, and it was. But I think I was just psyching I was just freaking myself.
Yeah.
My mom would go in there, and I'm like, "Mommy, you can't go in there. You're gonna die in there." It's like where all our coats were. It's like every winter she had to like go in there, but.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was So now I'm like, I feel like there's an explanation for almost everything. But like I said, I'm still not gonna I'm not taking any chances. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you tell me if you take a picture of this thing and something terrible is gonna happen, I'm like, all right, I'm probably not gonna take a picture, but I also don't believe that to be true. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh my God! Like one night, me and my wife were sleeping we're sleeping right one night, and there's this like bang inside of my house. So I wake up all tough, like who the hell's in my house? Like I need to fight somebody or what? And I look through the whole house, and there's nothing to be found. And I'm like, wow, that's really weird. And so then now I'm like trying to fall asleep, but I'm freaked out. I'm like, there's a fucking ghost in this house.
Did you go to all your
Yeah.
bathrooms and like pull open like the shower curtain real quick?
Dude, I checked every single inch of the house pretty much. There was nothing. Nothing was out of order. I'm like, you know, me and my wife lay back down, and we're just like, we're both freaked out. My wife definitely skews believer. So she's really freaked out. She's scared of. She can't even watch a horror movie. Like, you put a horror movie on, she'll have a nightmare for a week. Like so, it's terrible. So she's sitting in bed. She's like freaking out. She's like praying and shit. I'm trying to be tough. I'm like, it's all right, baby. I'm trying to fall asleep. And literally, as I'm dozing, instead of a bang, it's the loudest fucking crash. As soon as we're falling asleep, and now I wake up, I'm like, hold up, this ghost is trolling me now. So I'm running around the house, and we don't find anything, yo. And it was the most bizarre feeling ever. And then in the morning, I went to like go take out the trash, and I opened like the cabinet under the sink, and I see that like we had this thing that was hanging with all these sprays and like had it fallen off. So that's like what we were hearing. Like maybe one of the bottles fell off, and then the whole thing fell off. So I tend to think that most spooky situations are things like that, things that you don't expect, that you're not gonna find, and you know, you psych it up to be this huge thing. But I'm still not gonna take the chance, you know.
It's like me. I skew pretty skeptic, but I've got that spooky painting experience that I had, and I can logic out like all the things. Christina, I've told this story previously, but anyway, I bought this painting from a thrift shop, and it was for $1, and this painting was creepy as hell. It was just this painting about this big, and it was like a shadow woman screaming, and she was surrounded by like darkness and gray shit and whatnot. Spooky looking. I like spooky art. I've got like a whole little like spooky art section in my condo, right? But bought this painting, and then immediately the weird shit started happening. My partner at the time, we both woke up because there was this bright flash of red light in the room. That we would hear sounds from downstairs. The other paintings were falling off of walls. My guitar in my office was constantly falling over. All kinds of weird shit, right?
Wow.
And it stopped after I got rid of the painting. I went and put it by the dumpster, and that shit was gone in like 30 seconds. But it was a weird experience. My partner at the time was convinced that it was, you know, the painting was haunted. She even called a priest, and the priest told the advice the priest gave us was, you need to burn that and tell your boyfriend to come back to Jesus, because he's involved in some dark things.
Oh my God.
Me.
But like logically, I can come up with an explanation for most of it. You know, like there's animals that climb on roofs, and that could be what the thumping was. Maybe someone was like banging something into the wall, and that's why my paintings were falling down. There's a lot of like ways I can logic out of it. But it is probably like the closest to a supernatural experience I've had in my life so far, at least.
Do you feel like you did an unethical thing by putting it out there and passing the curse on to someone else, or should you have destroyed it?
Because I lean skeptic, I'm gonna say no, because the painting wasn't actually
all
haunted.
right. If whoever has the painting now, please contact all of us. I need to know.
You have a picture of this painting.
I do, man. I'll need to dig around for it. So
yeah, I remember. I remember episode of that you spoke of this before. I remember you put it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, let me dig through.
It's scary looking.
I need to see this.
Yeah, it's scary looking as hell. But then you start to see some of Mateo's other art, and it makes sense. You're like, oh yeah,
Okay.
this definitely fits in with the stuff on this.
I need to find some spooky art myself, because it's like too empty back here.
There is prime space for that's prime.
Yeah,
you can make statements with that much space.
I had a transistor and bastion painting, but I was like, I want to move those because I don't talk about video games. So
very fire.
What good games!
I love Transistor and Bastion. Those are incredible.
I love those two. Probably one of the only. I mean, yeah, the only two games I've probably ever finished. So.
What a great art style those games had, man. Those beautiful.
Oh my God, beautiful
games,
art, beautiful music. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
especially
era.
The music in Transistor is incredible. Like, I remember when I first played Bastion. Not to turn this into a gaming thing now, but I remember thinking how crazy it was. Like as you're like walking through the levels, like how the levels like always like dropping in.
Yes,
I thought that was amazing.
Yeah,
I found it.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's haunted for sure. Yeah.
Can you believe that this is only like $1 at the thrift shop?
Amazing.
Yep. As soon as you see it, it's like, yep, that's definitely haunted.
Yeah, no doubt.
That is hilarious.
There's some poor dead woman's soul like infused into that painting.
Yeah.
I need to know who has that now. Like somebody out there is.
It's somewhere in this
haunted.
condo complex, or maybe they went in, maybe they had to dump it too. Maybe they were able to burn it the way that I couldn't burn it. They were able to complete the ritual
Maybe.
and free the soul.
Yeah.
I have not to make this a video gaming topic, but there's the Dark Anthology series on PS4 and PS5. They're like little short story horror stories, and I've been playing those a lot. Those are super fire, like horror games.
Those are
like,
good.
Yeah, it's nice that we'll have someone watch you play them too, because they're like, it's like watching a novella, kind of, that you can kind of like figure everything out.
A second person gives you the strength. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was my stepson likes them, and but there's one that you can sort of play 2-player where you switch back and forth with whoever's what, like a character.
Yeah.
And he didn't like any of the choices I was making, and I was like, "What the hell? Like, you asked me to play with you, man," and he never did again. And so now he tells me about it, or I watch him play, but I can't play it with him apparently.
Oh, you're not allowed to make the choices anymore.
No. It was there's one that you're like on a boat. So if that sounds at all familiar, it's like the one before the newest one. Because I don't know how many there are. Is there like 2,
They
3?
made
I
a
don't
bunch.
remember.
They made the
They
Quarry.
made a bunch. Damn. Okay.
They made a lot. Super.
I have like 5, I think.
Yeah, so
Maybe
this one, there's one that's like you're on a boat and
Man of Medine. Yes, Man of Medine.
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it has Medan. I'm sorry, and it has the you got the captain is the short little
Yes.
black girl, and then you got that one.
Yep.
They hook up. Did you get them to hook up?
I think I was trying to get her to hate him, and my son was like, "No, you can't do that," and so that's why he kicked me out.
He was trying to get them to hook up.
I think he
all
was.
all the
yeah.
little boys, they want everybody to hook
Yeah.
up.
I was like, all right, I'm leaving. I didn't want that anyway. So you enjoy that part. I'm out.
That is funny. All right, cool. That's yeah.
Is-
That's what's up.
Do y'all think that it's just like life experiences that make someone a skeptic or believer? Like, does being religious make you more likely to be a believer in paranormal and
Yes,
spooky things?
100%. Yeah, I truly believe that. I think that's why so many Latino, Latina, especially. I mean, I'm more familiar with like Mexican culture because that's what I grew up with. But that's why so many of us are so superstitious. It's just they're intertwined. They're like so intertwined.
Yeah, it was big.
The whole religion itself, like you need to buy into the idea of like there being a devil and demons and spirits and like the supernatural's baked into, the religion itself. So it's like that's why me too. I grew up Catholic, so I think as I was
and I
younger,
think Catholic, it's mainly
a
a thing with Catholics. Because then you get into like evangelicals and they're like, no, none of that is real. But with I think with Catholicism and especially like being Mexican, you'll have family members that pass away. And as a Catholic, you're so used to saying like, or praying, almost not praying to your ancestors, but praying, asking for their help. And so if you're going to ask for your ancestors' help, then why is it not? I mean, of course, you're going to believe there's things out there that can, I don't know, do you harm or like spirits roaming because people have so many stories of being visited by their ancestors or protected by their ancestors. So yeah, there's going to be another side to that where you believe that, there's ghosts, all kinds of ghosts too.
I never thought of that. That's actually pretty cool. Because when I think of praying, it's always to God. It's use Jehovah. You know what I mean? But I never thought of like.
Yeah, like I grew up Catholic and I wouldn't. Sometimes I say I'm atheist, but I know 100% like if something bad were to happen, I would be like, oh my God, Virgencita Maria, blah, 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 blah. And then like I told what happened? There was like a noise one day and I was telling my mom about it that I thought like somebody was breaking in. And then I was like, oh, Virgencita, blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, no que eras atea. Like, weren't you atheist? Now you want to ask for help? And I'm like, hey, yes, I don't care. but I have always been like, my great grandpa, he passed away when I was like 2. And my mom was always so used to like telling him like, Bello, we're going to make a long drive if you can keep an eye out for us, watch out for us. And like there was one time that we were driving, we must have been driving to LA. That was like one of the biggest drives we did almost every vacation. It was like from Oakland to LA. And we got in a car accident. I don't know how it happened. It was like we passed by an overpass and then our windshield shattered. I am assuming someone threw something at the windshield. I don't know what happened, but the windshield shattered, and then my mom like lost control of the van and it was like spinning, and then my dumbass brother unbuckled himself, stood up and hugged my mom, and we were like, you what are you doing? Like, buckle yourself, you're gonna fly out. He was like skinny as hell, and we were like, you're so skinny, you're gonna fly out of the car. I don't know how he survived. And my mom says like she thinks like when she talks about it, she's like something was protecting us. Because that little skinny bitch, he should have flown out of the car. He was not buckled. He was like so small for his age. I'm like, how did he not fly out? Our windshield was gone. We were spinning out so fast because my mom was always speeding. So like, like we should have died, And so I truly believe that like mi bello, he was watching out for us, because there's no way my brother didn't like fly out of that.
Something about Spanish mothers. We used to call my mom the violator. Of how many violated laws she would try.
Just
she drive on the opposite side of the road sometimes.
Oh wow! Amazing.
There was a car that didn't have reverse. So every time she fucked up, she's like, all right, boys, get out. You got to push it.
Oh,
no.
Oh, wow.
She cared with me and my brother pushing the car. It was funny. Very funny.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah, you better chill on your mom. You know she'll be watching the podcast.
She's gonna love it. She's gonna love it. Don't let me talk about when she got the keys to the Mustang, not the Stang. It's over. So we got another topic here. Where do non-Spanish speakers fit into Hispanic culture? Because I have a belief that, a lot of people who don't speak Spanish, sometimes, especially the ones coming up, we get chastised for not either teaching our young ones Spanish or them not knowing it. So I was raised in a very Spanish-speaking household, so I learned it naturally, but I never really spoke it until I was older. So I was in a place where I could understand everything that was being told to me, but I couldn't really respond back in like a fluent manner of speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody always got on me for it when I was a kid. And church, oh, how do you not teach your kids Spanish? It was always some bullshit. And I get it, I get it. You want your kid to be set up for success and stuff like that. But I think sometimes language doesn't work that way, in my opinion, especially when you're speaking it with your family and stuff like that. Sometimes you got kids that are quieter than others. They're not really talkative. And then you got some kids that are. So I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I feel like growing up, I mean, like, so me and my brothers, at least from my parents, were the first people born in the States, right? So I feel like that desire of like your children learning Spanish, knowing the culture, all that stuff is like these people came from another country to kind of try to, get a better life for their family, but they still want you to be of that culture. They don't want you to like lose that part of like, because if you don't talk Spanish, your kids ain't gonna talk Spanish, and then it's almost like their legacy, in some part of their legacy is dead, And that's the vibe I always got with like my family. So like my family, we're Dominican, right? So everybody has to be able to dance. Everybody has to, everybody got to talk Spanish. You got to be loud. Probably got to be late to things. Like there's all these things you got to buy in to be part of the culture. And it's like, well, as soon as you're like bucking those trends, people look at you like, oh man, look at this guy. He's trying to be American over here.
What are you doing showing up 10 minutes early, huh, bud?
Yeah, in Dominican culture, everybody who doesn't want to dance is like crazy chastised. Like every little like shy kid who's like sitting in the corner, yeah, every aunt and cousin, they're trying to yank them onto the dance floor, and it's an I was one of those kids. So like as I gotten older, I enjoyed dancing, right? But as a kid, it was so embarrassing. I didn't want to dance, and it was like being chastised all the time about it. It was depressing.
That's funny. My experiences was interesting because my parents were they were second generation, right? So and they both kind of went to school in Texas growing up, and they went to like Catholic schools and like religious schools growing up. And so they when they were speaking Spanish in school, they would get beat by the nuns.
I was gonna mention that. Yeah,
it was not allowed. They would beat the shit out of them anytime they spoke Spanish. Yeah. So my first language was actually Spanish. I spent a lot of time with my grandpa growing up, and I just talked straight up Spanish. Around the time I started school, though, my parents stopped talking to me in Spanish at home, and I kind of lost all my Spanish because it's kind of like darkly funny now, because their reasoning at the time was they didn't want to put me at a disadvantage by having Spanish be my primary language. But it's because of their experience when they went to school. So like my Spanish now is still super weak. I can kind of catch context in sentences and things like that, but I can't put together a sentence to save my life. Like my Spanish is super weak. So I've definitely dealt with a lot of like that question growing up, like how are you Mexican if you don't speak Spanish? Why would you're not a real Mexican? All that fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so many layers to it. There's so many reasons why someone wouldn't know Spanish. And I probably did at one point make fun of people that didn't know Spanish because I was, a dumb young person who had no idea that there were layers to this. But there's so many reasons. I grew up speaking Spanish because my parents were immigrants and they did not know English. And so that is all we spoke until probably school or preschool. Maybe they started introducing English at preschool, and then but even all our classes were bilingual up till second grade. And, then, we spoke English at school with our friends. And still Spanish was the only thing we spoke at home. So I would say I'm very fluent. Still, there are words that I have no idea. And when I visit family in Mexico, they still call me a pocha, and that's fine. I embrace it. I am a pocha. But yeah, why is that an insult among other like here in the US among people that are first generation, second generation? Why I don't know why it's an insult, honestly, because it shouldn't be. Like there's so many reasons why someone doesn't know Spanish. I have cousins who we all grew up together, and like the youngest sibling will be the one that just didn't learn Spanish because by then the older kids were in school and they were fluent. They had to speak Spanish to their parents because parents didn't know Spanish or English. But by then they could translate the youngest kid. And then, the youngest kid is like the most neglected kid. I'm not going to lie. And so by then it was like, yeah, this kid could, like my cousin, one of my younger cousins, he could understand Spanish, but he didn't speak it. Or when he spoke it, it was bad. You could sort of guess what he was saying, and he understood every word being told to him, but he couldn't speak it. And that is a common story. Another common story, like you said, people, especially like in Texas, and people who were here for like a longer time, they couldn't speak Spanish in school. Like I did an episode for Historias Unknown about Robb Elementary before the shooting that Uvalde, that it was like the only school for Mexicans, and none of the teachers spoke Spanish. The parents all spoke Spanish. The kids were hit every time they spoke Spanish, and they couldn't speak it. So some people will go home and still speak Spanish, but some people will have their own kids and they'll be like, I don't want them to experience the same thing I did. Yep. So we're not going to teach them Spanish. And it just, sometimes you grow out of it. Like I'm trying to speak Spanish with my kids, and that's the only language I use with them. But my husband is Filipino and white, and so he doesn't know Spanish. He talks to them in English. My stepson, he's white. he obviously he knows some Spanish, but he speaks in English. He can understand some of it, so he talks to them in English. All of my husband's family, they speak English. So my kids, Like my son is 4 now. His name is also Mateo, by the way.
Is it
And
Aw.
yeah, but he can say some Spanish words and he will say them and he understands everything that's being told to him, but he will only reply in English. I'm not gonna force him to reply in Spanish, and I would like him to, know Spanish. And when he is in school, I'm gonna put him in immersion Spanish classes, but I'm not
Yes.
That's
gonna
awesome.
make fun of him if he doesn't know Spanish because it's not gonna be his fault. I'm doing what I can, and that's all you can do. But like that doesn't make anyone less Latina, less Mexican. Like no, it doesn't. So
Your
that's how I
roots are
feel
your
about it.
roots.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was loud ambulance.
I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out who screamed
I'm
out.
sorry, that was me. I'm sorry. Come by there.
Yeah, the getting beat for talking Spanish, so I'm not super familiar with stories like that in the States. Like I'm only because I've like read and listened to podcasts and things like that. Like I'm familiar with like in Canada, they had these like residential schools for like the indigenous populations that live there, and yeah, they literally beat the indigenous languages out of these kids. Like all these like older indigenous people grew up there, missing like big chunks of the culture of their parents. Like, and those schools are fucked up too. They would yank
Horrible.
They would yank kids away from their families, so they would live in like it was like a boarding school. They'd live there for months at a time. So
They made it so it was the only school, and it was like illegal not to send your kids. Then the parents would get sent to jail for not sending their kids to school. But this was the only school.
Just government-sponsored kidnapping, basically.
No, this is the one where they
Government-sponsored
found
genocide and kidnapping.
they all found the burial sites in. This is where they found
Yeah.
the burial sites.
Yep.
Underneath the school, hundreds of bodies
Damn.
underneath the
Mhm.
school. I remember hearing about that. That was so fucking terrible.
Yeah, there's a really good podcast called Stolen. She talks about the school her dad went to. And that's the whole season 1. That's what it's about. But yeah, highly recommend it. It's really
I
good.
need to check that one out.
Depressing though.
Yeah, I've actually listened to the same podcast. It is really good.
my family.
Yeah, it starts off with like her dad had been abused in residential school, and he was like a cop, and he pulled over some drunk driver, and it happened to be one of the priests that abused him as a kid, and he just like beat the living shit out of this priest.
I was like, yeah.
And
you
I
do
was like,
that.
fuck yeah,
Fuck
like, you know,
yeah.
But yeah, then the whole podcast then gets into like the school he went to and just trying to find out information about who were the administration that worked there and what type of abuse was these children suffered and things like that. It's really fucked up.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Oh no, it sounds very interesting. I know it's horrible, but it sounds like a
No,
good
yeah,
podcast.
it's fascinating. I mean,
I mean, it's why everyone watches true crime or listens to true crime podcasts, right? Like, it's horrifying shit, but man, it's so easy to just eat up. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
wild. So I was gonna say, there's like my family's coming in from Cuba. You'll find 2 different types of Cubans. Cubans that migrated from America and are the proudest Cubans you'll ever meet. And then there's the Cubans that came to America that don't really want anything to do with Cuba anymore.
Mhm.
So they either they'll even say they're white. So they'll even just be like,
could
"Nah,
see
I'm
that.
white." And they'll because they wanted to immigrate into the US. They wanted to shed their, so my grandfather didn't really like, I guess he spent his entire life over there. He came over here and he asked the people, they said, "Where do you want to go, Mr. Costa?" He says, "Where the least amount of Cubans are." And then
Damn.
they sent him to New York. So already you got a person that could only speak Spanish in a place where Irish people and all sorts of different English speaking people. So it was already with
Mhm.
the generation, my mom and her brothers, it was 7, if I'm not correct, 7 or 6. And so they all were Spanish speaking, but they all learned how to speak English correctly. So
Wait.
they all speak
Wait.
English.
Pause. The place with the least Cubans is New York City. I don't believe that. I think it's probably somewhere in like Ohio or Kentucky or West Virginia.
It could have been at the time though.
Yeah, at the time in the 70s, early 70s, I think it was like 70, early either 75 or something like that.
I think they were
Um,
definitely trying to send them to cities though.
Yeah, it's got to be
yeah.
like
I,
the
I,
big cities, basically, is what
Yeah.
I
what
think
they're
it's like not South Florida. Okay, send me to not South Florida. Yeah, and believe it or not, New York City had a pretty healthy like Cuban population. Like at that time, it's like because the Cubans were really like the first like Caribbean people that Spanish speakers that like went to New York City. So like New York City is known for like a big like Puerto Rican population, but the Cubans were
Yeah.
there first, then the Puerto Ricans, then the Dominicans, and
Were
then
they? Because I know there was a huge migration of Puerto Ricans after like World War II
Mhm.
to New York. But I don't know. I have never looked into like Cuban migration into New York.
There
Interesting.
were a lot of Cubans. Not well. When we say a lot, there were
Yeah.
neighborhoods, and
Yeah,
you'd see
yeah.
a lot where Cubans lived. There's not so many more anymore. It changed. It went. A lot of those neighborhoods changed. You even have a lot of African neighborhoods, and then now Mexican culture, Guatemala, Hondurans. They're a big part of New York, which is beautiful
Oh,
because it's like
wow.
it's
Okay.
yeah. There's big neighborhoods in Queens that are just Ecuadorian and
you were
very is
you were telling me about that the last time that I went up there, and that had changed just between the last time I went up and however many years it had been since the time before. Like in a span of like 3 or 4 years, it felt like it changed.
yeah.
I don't know if the population like got bigger, but I know when I grew up in Jamaica, like in Queens, I like aside from like Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, the other Spanish speakers were El Salvadorians and Ecuadorians, like that lived in Jamaica with us.
Really?
Yeah.
I
So-
always associated New York with like Puerto Rico, the DR, and
Uh-huh.
Cuba. But I never think about like other groups that are obviously there.
I mean, if you go to any single restaurant in New York City, it's all Mexicans that work there. So like, there's a healthy Mexican population. They like I don't know what Mexican neighborhoods are in New York, but they're literally working
Uh-huh.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that interesting that like I don't know when you think of like South American like countries, you think of like Texas and New Mexico and California and stuff, but even South Florida, there's a lot. There's a lot of Guatemalans. There's a lot of Nicaraguans, El Salvadorians, Mexicans.
The coolest thing also about that is that it'll be a Italian owned restaurant and the Mexicans are making Italian pizza, authentic Italian pizza. And I'm like, yo, this is pretty
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
And it's cool. It's very cool. Steakhouses that I go to, Ricardo Steakhouse is a very big Filipino staff, and then Mexican are cooking and stuff like that. So it's dope. The way that everybody integrated here. And now we have a big, huge migrant population here that just came in because they're busing them in from Texas. So we
Mm.
have like 400,000, if I think something like that.
Oh.
They're
So
busing them in from Texas.
yeah,
Is it these like racist politicians that are doing this?
yep, from
Yeah.
different red
Yeah.
states are busing them into Massachusetts, to New York. So basically, our shelter population is at max. Basically,
I really dislike these like political games that they've started playing with people that are just trying to start a new fucking
I
life.
could
I gotta
not.
be-
I was so mad when he sent over them to. They said, didn't they send them over to like a? What was it? Someone's
Martha's
house.
Vineyard, Martha's Vineyard.
That's what it was. I was like,
Which
are
is an
you- I
island.
cannot.
That's like for the super posh and rich.
Yeah.
It's like
They
Wasn't-
do not want an influx of immigrants.
Wasn't
in
it like
Martha's Vineyard.
like 40 degrees outside or some shit too?
it's really fucked
Yeah.
up. It's really
Yeah.
fucked up. But if there's one place, if I gotta be completely honest, if there's one place that any of these people could survive and make anything out of themselves, is New York. New York is, I'm welcome them. You know what I mean? They're great people,
Yeah.
bro. I really love the people that I've met, that I've gotten to know, and very special people.
Yeah, New York City.
Honestly.
New York City allow like a complete Spanish speaking immigrant to move over there and not change anything about themselves. They could still go shopping. They could get jobs and
That's
never have to
amazing,
learn
yeah.
English. Like, because there's these neighborhoods in New York that just like there's just so many immigrants that talk Spanish that are like Nobody needs to learn English. Like my dad barely talks
Love it.
English. Like my grandparents, they lived in New York City for more years than they lived in the Dominican Republic, and they never had to learn English. My generation, like me, my brother, my cousins, like we're the first people that really learned English. Like my mother grew up in Brooklyn. Like she moved to Dominican Republic when she was like maybe like 11 or 12. So she speaks English like perfectly fine. But like aside from that, it's like all the elders barely talk any kind of English.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Go for it, Doey.
I was gonna say, so like the reason I didn't know is like my mom already spoke really proper English when I was growing up, and it didn't feel like it was a requirement. You know what I mean? In my family, I felt like learning English, how to speak English properly. And I guess that's what translated to me was like the reading and the writing and stuff like that. Um, but I still try. I try because there's some really cute Spanish speaking mommies over at the, I kind of need it.
Yeah,
Sorry, hold on.
you talking Spanish is one of my favorite things ever because it's. Call me a bad person. I make fun of Doey for his bad Spanish.
I feel like it's gotten better though. Not that I'm not. I can just hear Spanish, and it seems like it's gotten better.
It's getting there.
It's bad.
Honestly, though, that's impressive. Yeah.
I need to pick mine back up. I keep telling myself that I need to find one of these like immersion programs, or like there's a tutor in my neighborhood that they sell, like they do like Spanish lessons. So tempted to try to pick it up again, but
I know my library here used to do a Spanish speaking circle for like intermediate people or beginner/intermediate. So they could actually, because you can read it, you can do Duolingo, but I don't think there's anything like actually having a conversation in Spanish.
Absolutely.
That's been my experience. Like I've done Duolingo. I was doing Esperanto a few months back just because I'm obnoxious.
Oh, yeah. Esperanto.
But I don't think you
What
can
is
actually
that?
learn a language and like have like a conversation with it using one of those apps.
She's asking what is Esperanto?
Esperanto is real dumb. Esperanto was envisioned as this like world language, and it was gonna get rid of the need for it was gonna allow the entire world to communicate with everyone else.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
So
He wanted the whole world to talk one language.
So
Oh my
it's this
God.
language that was just invented. It didn't have roots in anything. It wasn't a
What?
naturally occurring language. It was an entirely manufactured language.
Oh my God. When did this happen?
Oh man, like the 1930s, 1920s.
No
What?
way.
I need to. Okay, I need to deep dive this. I've never heard of this.
It's real goofy. I don't remember a lot of it. I know that to ask someone like how they're doing, it's "Kiel vi fartas."
What the fuck?
Yeah, so apparently it was
Wow,
it was
okay.
created in 1887.
18, dude,
Yeah.
that's
I
a
have
year.
never heard of this.
1887.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's old, and it is the most widely spoken invented language, whatever that's. So not the most widely spoken language. We're talking about made up language.
Invented. Yeah.
And they say
Wow.
they estimate anywhere between 30,000 to 180,000 native speakers of Esperanto.
Oh,
Wow.
There's a lot of
he's
fucking
one of
people.
them.
Mateo's one.
Wow.
Yeah.
If I ever met another Esperanto speaker, I could ask him how they're doing, and I could tell him I'm doing okay.
If you speak Esperanto, please contact all of us.
Seriously, I'd love to. It'd be like
Oh
we
my
just had the
God.
we had Steven on, and we just treated him like the Australian dude. We just had so many questions about Australia. We were like, "What do you
I
guys
love it.
eat? What's the food like? What do you guys drink? What do you do in Australia? Are there creatures that are constantly trying to kill you?" I was like,
Now, when he told me,
I'd like that we asked Steven, like, where exactly are you from in Australia? And he described where he was, and all our eyes glazed over because we realized none of us know Australian geography. So why were we even asking that question?
I would do the same thing though.
and we
So
got
what-
ahead of ourselves there.
so when he said that kangaroos jump out in front of cars like deer does, like up here, up in the Northeast, I found that wild. I was like,
Wow.
He said he had the shed full of killer spiders. I'm like, I wouldn't go in there. He's
I
like,
would
yeah,
not
I
have a
go in there
shed.
from time to time. I'm like, I'd burn it down. I'd be done with it.
Yeah, he casually referred to one of the spiders that lives in his shed as more dangerous than a black widow.
yeah,
Wow. Wow. No.
no way.
No.
He looked around his room. He's like, yeah, I got a couple spider web, in the corners. And I'm like, I'm good.
Yo, they live harmoniously in Australia. They are one with the land. That shit is
One with-
crazy.
I think the spider's on his lease, dude.
One with
Yeah.
the spider.
Yeah, that's like New York people and rats, though. Let's be for real. New York
Oh.
people and rats, we kind of like. I got 2 cats because the rats.
You need a cat there. Yeah.
2 cats because the problem was my grandma and grandpa were scared to get out of the bed a few years ago because there was this big ass, and it wasn't no fucking mouse. It's not a little field mouse. It was a rat. And it was
I would
in
die.
the crib, and they wouldn't get up to use the bathroom because they were scared at night.
That would be me. Wow.
Pobrecito, my grandma and grandpa. So my mom brought a cat into the house, and literally the day they brought it in, the rat stopped coming in, and
Oh, good.
yeah. But you definitely need a cat in New York. If it's like you kind of need it.
I
These
just
mice.
think of the pizza rat. You saw the video of the rat holding the slice of pizza running down into
Yeah.
the subway?
It's a
Yeah,
pretty
it's
cool
like
rat.
that.
It's the
though.
most New York shit ever.
Like a hat turned sideways.
Yeah, all he needed was the Timbs and the Yankee fitted. It would have been over.
Wow.
Oh my god,
So-
Joey, please get a pet rat and put some Tims on it, dude.
No, I can't, dude. There's people that do that over here. I'm like, no. They'll have like a pet rat.
I can't even imagine holding one.
I'd rather have a pet rat than a pet spider. We'll say that much.
Okay, well then, yeah.
Nah.
If you had to make
I
me
would
choose,
have neither.
Just looking at a rat's tail makes my stomach like turn.
That's
like,
what
just-
it is.
It's so
the tail.
thick and it's ribbed. It's just so fucking disturbing. I can't
Blech.
look at it.
But what is
Oh.
that rat's name from Charlotte's Web? Turkleton? You don't remember the rat? He sings a song
The
about all the food he wants
oh,
to eat.
I remember
Mm-mm.
the rat. I don't think his name was anything close to that.
It might not be.
Tunkerton. No.
we got one more topic. All right, one last topic, guys. We got fact versus fiction. Which one is scarier? And this topic is inspired. How so again? You could help me out.
So it's what is scarier to you? Like the idea of staying somewhere like haunted or spooky or dealing with supernatural stuff, or the just normal everyday craziness that actually happens. Like there's serial killers out there. There's for me, that movie The Strangers is the scariest is one of the scariest horror movies I've ever seen because it's just random acts of violence. It's just 3 people that decide to do fucked up things. And that's the entire point of the movie. There's this line at the end where they ask, like, why are you doing this to us? And they're like, well, because you were home.
Iconic.
Yeah,
There-
like I said, I can't really watch horror in my house. Because my wife, if she even like passes by and sees like a little glimpse of horror, that's it. She'll have nightmares and blame it on me. But yeah, for me, I think I'm more scared of the supernatural, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Cause I could fight somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like there's a chance, like the idea of just being haunted by a thing, like an ethereal being, like that's horrifying. Like I remember the first time I watched like Paranormal Activity, I'm like, this would be the end of me. It would be and that girl saying the thing follows her everywhere she goes. I'm like, that is horrifying. There's nothing you could do about that. That's terrible. I mean, and growing up, right, the scariest like horror villain for me was always like Michael Myers because he seemed to be the most like realistic. Like I'm like, yeah, this could happen. There could be a guy with a knife that's just big and he'll just stab you. You know what I mean? Like that's scary.
Well, he's a good mix of both, though, right? Because Mike Myers is
yeah.
also invincible. Like he's been set on fire, he's been shot, he's been stabbed, they buried him. Did they chopped off his head, or am I thinking of Jason? Maybe that might be
I
Jason.
think that was. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
Mike Myers is a international man of mystery, right?
Ooh.
Fucking what a classic.
Yeah. I would go supernatural. I'm just like, I just wouldn't know how to deal with it. I have such a realistic brain that I wouldn't be able to compute what to do, what options I have. I'll be screwed.
I am much more scared of like the actual people, humans and stuff. There's one case, H. Holmes, the first real serial killer. He was one,
Hmm.
Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. And he was a serial killer, the subject of more than 50 lawsuits. He had this house that was called the Murder House, and he would shift the walls on you. You walk down the hallway, and then he'll close one hallway and
What?
open another one. There were
Wow.
like pits you could fall down and get, like there was like these the Vietnamese pits where they had like the sticks and you'd get penetrated. There was rooms that would close on you and fill up with gas, and stuff like that. And he would advertise this place as a hotel, and he'd have people come stay at the hotel, and he'd slowly kill people. There was like, I think, over 25 people, but they could only pin him to one, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah,
What
he
the
killed
hell?
apparently children, he killed women, all sorts of shit.
Where is this at?
This was, I think, in Philadelphia, if I'm not correct. This
How
is
long did it take him to build this thing? Like, how did he even?
He had two passions in his life. Obviously, he loved killing people, and he loved
Right.
and he loved DIY. He absolutely loved DIY.
Yeah.
Dangerous intersection there.
It was in Chicago. It says Illinois and the Murder
my God.
Castle, and there's a picture of H. Holmes Castle. So yeah,
If
this
there's
was in
any
Chicago.
if there's any intersection between murder and DIY, all of our children are gonna grow up murderers, because the amount of DIY shit that Facebook just like is throwing in your face. You just scroll through Facebook and it's just DIY. Yeah.
I do like that the DIY subreddit. I like the post where they're asking. It's just like a picture of like a wall, and they're like, "You think this is load bearing?" And then before there's any replies, the next picture is like a disaster. They're like, "Oh yeah, it was load bearing."
Oh yeah.
But yeah, though you were saying this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That sounds like a video game.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like
Apparently,
somebody moving walls, gas chambers, Indiana Jones pits and shit. That's
he
terrible.
would I guess 1886, it was still like, so he would take these dead bodies apparently and sell them to medical schools as
Oh
cadavers
God.
Damn.
and shit like that. Yeah, pretty wild. And when you think about shit like that, he did this all like before he was 35. I'm like, nah, bro, that's crazy.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
People back in the day were they were
They had nothing
smarter
else
than
to
now. They were
do.
savants. You'd be finding out, like, you listen about, you read about this, a king, he fought in all these wars, he architected the city like crazy, and then you find out, yeah, he did it all by the age of 17. You're like, what? I'm a failure. Like, I haven't done shit in my life.
Well, you only lived to about 25 back then, right? So you really had to cram a lot of living in.
Yeah, life expectancy was kind of bad.
What about you, Christina? What scares you more? Scary, like spooky stuff, real life stuff?
I mean, for sure, real life stuff. Seeing as how women get murdered by men a lot more.
That is fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you always have to be careful. Like, I always get on the phone when get out of work. I get out of work like at 8:15, and sometimes I work inside clinics that are inside of like a store, like a pharmacy, and so the parking lot's right there, right by the door. I always park near it, but other clinics are like, there's no street parking, and it's in Portland, and I have to walk like 3 blocks down. I'm like, I get on the phone immediately and call someone, like, okay, I'm walking to my car, because usually my dad will answer, and I always talk to him. And it's like partly because I talk to him every night anyway, but also because like I want to be on the phone if something happens to me, and carry like a little knife with me all the time. So you got to be safe. When I would run, I didn't do it, but I always meant to get like spray so I could spray someone, because you never know. And like statistics of someone randomly doing this to you, they are low, but still there's too many stories out there.
way too many. You would feel that way. It's the same thing in New York. It's like it's better to be protected than to not to be
Mhm.
protected at all, because the stories that you hear about women, especially in the subway, which is the worst part, is that this is just people trying to get back and forth, working people trying to get
Mhm.
back and forth home, wherever they're trying to get to, and you'll be accosted. Somebody will try to grab you, somebody's masturbating in the train, watching you. It's some
Oh
weird
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
bullshit like that. Like there's a lot of that goes on, and it made me think like how scary it is. There was just a woman that got raped. She was jogging. I think it was 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and and I think to myself, and I was like, and I felt myself judging her, like why would she go out that early? But I'm like, nah, it should be safe enough for someone to go
Right.
jogging, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like at this point we live in a society where she should be able to go jogging without having to worry about being raped. Um,
Mhm.
so it's real fucked up. It's very scary. And that's why I don't blame women when they're like nervous and shit like that. I'm like, you're just, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I can't imagine because I'm a big man, so I don't. It's just not a thought that like I never go out and I'm like, oh, I'm so worried about being assaulted. You know, it's literally not a thought in my mind. But like my wife, right, back in the day, she used to like walk a lot to work and shit. You know, she'd have to walk a bunch of blocks to get to work, and yeah, like just walking near like a main like road, and you know she'd get like catcalled like constantly. People would pull up and just drive right alongside her, trying to have full conversation, get out the
Mhm.
car, and it's just like, you know, like I had to take her to like this like a security store or something. We bought like this like kind of this like perfume looking pepper spray, and I got her like a knife and stuff like that. But it's like it's shitty that like just existing is enough to be like accosted like so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, that's wild stuff. I try to be like aware of things like that because I know that yeah, I didn't this is how like how much it doesn't occur to me on a daily basis that like obviously the answer for a woman that we ask that question is probably going to be real life because of the shit that y'all go through daily. But I try to be like cognizant of some of it, right? Like if I'm walking down a street and there's a woman in front of me, I will cross the street so I'm not just like the weirdo that's walking behind her on a street in the middle of the night or anything
Yeah.
like that. Like I know that there's vibes that I just don't want to trigger any of their spidey senses about danger or anything.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a scary world out there. It only seems to get more scary with like how far people take things and the mental illness aspect, and it's really fucked up. So that I for me, but even though supernatural can be very scary, I guess I haven't experienced enough of it to be like my main thing. I think
Mhm.
getting a fucking lion is scary. Keenan said there's a lot of real shit out there that could fucking that could kill you. The one thing any New Yorker is scared of is falling on the subway tracks and getting run over by a train.
Oh my
That's like
god. Yeah.
it's the really scary thing. Like so, anytime you see someone on the tracks, it's like every New Yorker is kind of like, oh no, is there a train coming? Because those trains pull into the station at like 30, 40 miles an hour. They don't have enough time to stop unless they're warned and shit like that. So it's real
Mhm.
scary.
Dude, the
Uh,
worst of those fucking train stations that are like the above ground train stations are usually like in Queens and Brooklyn, and they're like the tiny stations. So it's just like there's just a platform in the air, like there's nothing else up there, and the walkway is just big enough for like like barely one person to pass, and then there's somebody standing on the wall, and you got to walk past them, and you're just like, oh, this person's gonna push me in, they're gonna push me in, they're gonna push me in, they're gonna push and the shit is tense, yo. like you got to walk by with like a degree of confidence, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I feel like just getting into a fight with this person. I'm like, you should know that no one likes this. Why are you standing here? Like you deserve to get your ass kicked. Move down. If you're the first person, go all the way to the end. You can't just plank right a couple feet into the station. Like you can't do this. Like
there's almost
because
no room
it's
anyways.
just a wall and then a walkway that wide and you know what I'm talking about though. You ever been to those like stations like that? And it's just like somebody's gonna push me onto the tracks. Like that's just scary as hell.
It's one of the scariest things. Like I don't, except I ride bicycle. I ride my bike to and from work. So I'm not gonna lie. Garbage trucks, big box moving trucks, buses.
Yeah.
These things are fucking frightening to me. Like, cause that's it. I one mistake and it's pretty much over. So I gotta kind of treat them with like the utmost respect. Like I really like I do.
My irrational New York fear is always falling into like a hole in the street. Just like
the greats.
just the
People
greats
have fallen.
Yeah.
The greats. You scary.
Yeah,
Also,
I don't pay attention, so I'd fall through for sure.
sometimes they'll have the basement open and it's one of the grates on the there'll be like a fold out, and those are the worst too because you'll just be walking and you just chill. It's over.
That sounds miserable.
I
I've never
don't mean
fallen.
to cut this short, but I do gotta get going.
Yeah,
Okay.
no worries. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we want to thank you. Just if you could let us know what is your ats on TikTok and stuff like that, where we can find you and your content.
I've got that. I do the research. I'll pull it up.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
at
Okay, cool.
Espooky Tales everywhere, really.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll toss all your social links down here in the comments below.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. This is
This
the
was
one up.
fun.
Yeah, it's the one up
I
podcast.
felt bad. I got sick last week, or no, when was that? 2 weeks ago? I don't remember. I was sick and I couldn't do it when I was supposed to, but I'm glad that we rescheduled because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Shout out to you and MJ. And hopefully we can have you guys vice versa, so we could do some sort of work together. It'd be real cool and a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Hit that like
Yes,
button,
yes.
hit that subscribe button, guys. Let's get them likes up. You already know what time it is. If you know us, you already know you can find us anywhere. And this is a one up podcast. You already know the catchphrase. You go and one up yourself.
That sounded aggressive.
Yeah.
Put up one yours, okay? No, it's okay. All right. Please.
Peace.
Bye.